Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Rhonda, and together we are the Sake Sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is Switchblade Sisters Social Club. This is a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. So my name is Dee, and this is my sister Rhonda, and we are the Sake Sisters. Hi.
Hi.
So we have a website, Switchblade Sisters Social Club .com, where you can see all of our socials, all the information about our past episodes, and also information about us and working with us, because between us, we do copywriting, copy editing, make websites, do different things for different, we offer different podcast services and so forth. Rhonda, I'm so excited because this is the first episode where I don't know what topic you're covering. And this has never happened to me on a podcast before.
Well, you know what? I don't know how you're going to react because I'm not sure you would have heard of this person. I was going to say lady, but I think that's a little too generous a title for her. Yeah, I'm not sure you would have heard of her because I only came across her when I was doing some research. Because
you want to give me clues?
Yeah. Okay, well, she's female.
Okay, she's a shit. I gathered that from what you said.
She's evil.
I.e. Mornos.
No, but I've avoided her because I thought she must have been covered to death, you know? So I'm really interested in, I mean, like so many serial killers, they're male, aren't they? So I wanted...
British or American?
American.
Modern day or old-timey?
I mean, we consider it the modern day, but we're talking 90s.
Yeah, so 5 minutes ago. Oh. Is she a Black Widow?
No.
Oof, I don't know. I give up.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about someone called Michelle Knotek.
Know her? No! I'm so excited.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to cover a female serial killer is because there's just less of them, and you talked about this before in one of our episodes. And also, I think I just wanted to understand it a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, as women, we're kind of brought up to be afraid of men and to expect the worst, you know? But from women, especially like mothers, you automatically just assume a bit of trust, especially like you kind of assume if their parents, they're maternal, caring. Well, she was none of these things. And that's why I was kind of so fascinated, because I wanted to know what makes somebody fucking evil, you know?
Yeah.
I always want to know the backstory. There's always a backstory. No one just one day turns evil, you know?
I'm so excited about this. But before we go in, I just want to point out, I've branded myself. Okay. Look how cool our cushion is.
Oh, yeah.
Available on our merch store, so do check it out on the website. And also...
Oh, our hoodie. You can have the full shebang. You can even drink coffee out of a Switchblade Sisters coffee mug.
Oh. I know you can. I know.
And I have mine here.
So go check out the website for all of our merch. If you've got any merch ideas, send us an email as well. If there's any merch you would like to see, we're open to suggestions.
Or click our link in bio to find our website. Okay, so do you want me to tell you the story?
Yeah, I've forgotten her name already. I'm that unfamiliar with it. What is it?
Michelle Knotek.
Michelle Knotek. All right, tell me about this bitch. Okay,
so the last episode I presented about Amy Fisher and Joey Bada Bing Bada Boom, nobody died.
Yeah.
So I want to mix it up. This time people die, unfortunately.
Right.
That's kind of the nature of true crime podcasts. So I'm giving the people what they want. Okay.
Trigger warnings, but that should be expected.
Yeah. Okay, so as I said, I wanted to kind of cover this topic because most killers are men. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about what makes women kill. So we're talking about Michelle Knotek, who is, as I said, a very evil person. But what's interesting is that from the outside, she was believed to be generous and a giving person. And I find that even more fascinating because when I was researching this, I thought at times, was she two people? You know, is it a Jekyll and Hyde sort of situation? I didn't come across any evidence to support that theory, you know, split personalities, whatever. But it did raise that question for me. I don't think that's the case. I think she was manipulative, to be fair. I wouldn't want to give her that much credit to say that she had a good side. But it's interesting that she was able to portray that so fucking well.
To fake it. To fake it so well, yeah.
Yeah. So Michelle was from a town in Washington State, south of Seattle. And she ended up, her last home was a cute little gingerbread looking house. You know, so from the outside, you know, no one would have suspected a thing. She was known as Shelley and was born Michelle Watson. She, surprise, surprise, had a troubled upbringing. Her dad left her mother when she was very young. Her mother was an alcoholic who got even worse when her husband left. Her husband's name was Les. So that's Michelle's dad. She ended up meeting another alcoholic who became her partner, and they ended up living on Skid Row. So Michelle's mother was, you know, working as a sex worker. She was an alcoholic. She was also extremely abusive. And when I say abusive, I mean torture, you know. The partner, Michelle's mother's partner, ended up murdering her mother in a motel room, beating her to death when Michelle was only 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the result was a troubled upbringing, a troubled childhood. And Michelle became very manipulative and challenging. And one day before her mother's death, her mother dropped off Michelle and her brother. She had 2 brothers, but she dropped off just Michelle and her middle brother, Chuck, to their dad's doorstep and said, just take the damn kids, you know? So that gives you an idea of what the mother was like. So at this stage, I'm going to say Michelle is a victim. She's a kid.
For sure. She's clearly become manipulative because that's the only way she can get her basic needs.
Yeah. And also basic needs, but also like learned behavior. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing we come across in a lot of these episodes. When you look at the family background, like attracts like because it's familiar, you know? And if you're not exposed to different, you don't know what that looks like, or you might not know how to respond to it, you know?
You might not even know it exists.
Yeah.
That another way exists.
Exactly. So eventually she went to live with her, she got shipped around a lot between family members. So she went to live with her dad and his new wife, Lara, who actually did try to take her on to help her. But then she ended up living with her dad's parents, got kicked out of several schools, ended up living with her aunts for a while. But unfortunately, she continued to try to ruin the lives of those around her. Literally, you know.
As a child?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So her abuse of others started young when she would babysit the neighbors' kids only to barricade them in their room with heavy furniture. So yeah, her torturous behavior started young. She didn't like school or authority figures and was described as pretty uncontrollable, which is understandable when you come from a background like she did. You know, sometimes the kids with the worst behavior are the ones that need love the most, you know? That I know from when I was a teacher. So she was described, though, as being very striking and beautiful. And to be fair, she was. By the time she was 24, she had 2 daughters under 3 by 2 fathers. I'm not judging her for this. I'm just telling you the facts.
Have you got a picture of her?
I'll show you.
Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah, I mean, you could see how she... Exactly that picture. Yeah, that's the one I was going to show you. You could see how she could confuse people. So, she had her 2 kids.
I'm feeling really quite sorry for her.
Yeah.
At this point.
Exactly. And I think there is a point where the abused becomes the abuser, you know, but they probably wouldn't have become the abuser had they not been so abused, you know? So, yeah. So by the time she was 24, she had 2 daughters. And it appeared that she was settling into being a parent and worked hard to become a nurse. Now, I've read different accounts. The other account was that her first husband, Randy, was coerced into marrying her because her dad and his wife Lara wanted her to be somebody else's problem. So they literally organized the wedding, got them a trailer to live in, like didn't even invite his parents to the wedding because they didn't want any involvement, anyone to make this not happen. And apparently she was fired from several jobs, wasn't domestic at all. Don't blame her, I'm not. But she, yeah. So there were reports that she kind of settled when she had her kids, and other reports that no, it was just the same old shit. So she was trying to become a nurse, though, and she was continuing a family tradition, as her grandmother and aunt on her dad's side were all nurses, and the family actually owned care homes. But as I said, she got fired from a few jobs. She didn't qualify as a nurse in the end, but she did work in the care homes. It's said that she was always very drawn to less fortunate people. We will find out why. After a while, it looked like she sorted herself out. So fast forward past the two partners who were her kids' dads, she met a new guy called Dave Knotek, who was a Vietnam veteran, and she met him in 1982. He was a lonely widower and was looking for someone to fill the void. So on the outside to him, Michelle seemed like a good catch. They married in 1989 and settled in Raymond, Washington, which was a small town. Michelle stayed at home and with the kids, and David worked in construction. And soon after they got married and whatever, they took in her 12-year-old nephew, Shane Watson, who was her youngest brother, Paul's son. Because remember, she liked to look after needy people. It was also believed that Michelle loved the underdog, and yeah, as I said, she wanted to help people. Or so
I think I know what's coming, though. She just liked vulnerable people.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a name for what she had. The condition. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. Maybe cut all this out. But some things are born from trauma, and some people do have personality disorders. Again, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and none of this was sort of mentioned in any of my sources. So I don't know. I'm just mentioning it because, as we know, back in the day, diagnoses for things were not as common as they were now, and people weren't getting support as they do now, you know, as they, although it's hard to get, you know.
We'd like to think that if she was a kid now, she would have more support, and hopefully whatever is bound to happen here wouldn't have happened. It's still not the case all the time, but things are getting a little bit better. I don't know. I have no reason to think that, but I just hope.
Her dad did put her in a lot of counseling, and I'll explain why later on. Didn't seem to help, but anyway, I'll tell you about that in a sec. So Shane's dad was Michelle's brother, so Shane is her nephew. His dad also struggled to come to terms with the mother's murder, and Shane's father was in a motorcycle gang, and he was always in and out of prison. So Shane was also raised by a lot of people in his early years and was getting into a lot of trouble. So David, who was Michelle's husband, treated Shane like his own son, spent a lot of time with him. Soon after, David and Michelle had their first daughter, Tori. Their first daughter together. She already had two girls before. Her two other girls were called Nikki and Sammy. So right after Michelle gave birth, a friend called Kathy Lorena moved in to help, which is weird. I mean, she wasn't brought in as like a live-in au pair. She was a friend who just was brought in to help, but whatever. Okay. Apparently,
I mean, they have 4 kids at this point.
And Michelle wasn't
domesticated,
so,
as you said.
Yeah, you know, I can see how somebody offers, you might take up on that offer. But anyway, Kathy had started out as Michelle's hairdresser, and they became friends after bonding over heartbreak. So Kathy was apparently another person Michelle tried to help. And in 1989, when Kathy couldn't pay her rent, Michelle helped and took her in exchange for help with the kids. So at this point, Michelle, David, and her 2 daughters, Shane, the nephew, and their new baby, and Kathy all moved out of their cramped small house into a bigger house out in the sticks, which is the gingerbread house. It was very private and isolated.
That doesn't sound good. Can I want to Google her house. Did you find a picture of her house?
Yeah. It's not the cutest house I've ever seen, but by, like, you know, the States, out in the middle of nowhere, It's cute by those sort of standards.
Um,
Don't be looking for an English country cottage because it's not that.
yeah, you kind of sold it as cuter than
I mean,
what
it's
it
cute
is.
for, a serial killer.
I mean, it's not cute. I'm gonna
Yeah.
share. Cool. I mean,
Yeah.
the caption kind of gives it away, so I'm gonna stop. But yeah. I mean, I
Um,
knew it wasn't gonna end well, so.
No. Okay, so Kathy was with him for 2 years, but then met a boyfriend and moved on to California in a sudden spur of the moment decision in 1991.
So this is the friend. She got a boyfriend
Yeah.
and moved out. I mean, it was gonna happen. She's not gonna live there forever, is she?
Well, let's see. Kathy never told the family she was leaving or ever said bye. Yeah, you're so naive. She just upped and left one day, apparently with her boyfriend. So Kathy went missing for several years, and her family eventually, in 1994, 3 fucking years after she went missing, reported her missing. Not sure why they didn't do it.
I know that every family is different, but I feel like within hours,
Yes,
my family would know there was something wrong.
yeah.
Like,
okay.
I even have to, if I want to take a nap in the day, I even have to text the family group, don't I? To say,
Yeah,
like,
if I didn't hear from you for 24 hours, I'd get scared.
That long, I feel like if I hadn't, like, we have a dad, he calls me on average about 2 to 3 times a day.
Yep.
We have a family WhatsApp group, which isn't that weird. I think most people do have some sort of thing
We
like
have
that.
several. We have several.
We have several of different configurations. And yeah, if I was not responding, and like I said, I often have to text people in the family when I'm going to be out of communication for a couple of hours, whether I'm taking a nap or just going to be busy or whatever, because I know what they're like. And if they try to reach me, we have a dad who calls on repeat because he doesn't understand that you basically see the same amount of notifications, whether someone's called you once or 800 times. Yeah, so it makes me sad because it makes me think like they're obviously families where someone would have to be out of the picture for a lot longer before the family's like, hang on a minute, when's the last time we spoke to them?
And okay, this is before mobile phones and social media, so apparently she was on a road trip with her trucker boyfriend traveling around the country, so it's, these are the postcard days. But still, like 3 years, that's a long time. So
I mean, we were around pre-mobile phone, and if we were doing anything like that involved traveling around a lot, and we travel to other countries and whatnot, that was all the more reason we were obliged to like phone in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess she's an adult.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah. So, yeah, don't know why they waited for so long to report it, but whatevs. The police then paid a visit to the Knotek house, and Michelle didn't appear to be concerned about Kathy, saying that she was in California, and showed the police apparent letters and postcards she was sent from Kathy. So the police were convinced and let the matter drop. Look how easy it is to get away with crimes, It's fucking crazy. They didn't even check that it was her handwriting or anything like that. Anyway, what also happened in 1993, the year before Kathy was reported missing, was that Shane, the nephew, went missing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how old is he at this point? Teenager?
Teenager, yeah. So Michelle reported him missing as a runaway. So soon after the report was filed, Michelle contacted the police and said she'd heard from him and that Shane was in Alaska and got a job, so decided to stay. And apparently this was a very common thing to do as summer work, going to Alaska, because it was well paid. Didn't know that. Then, in the summer of 2001, Michelle's oldest daughter went to the police to make allegations that were terrifying and sickening. By this point, the abuse had been going on for a long time. Yeah.
How old was the daughter?
She met Dave. Michelle met Dave in 1982. The daughter was already a few years old, so daughter would have been born in the late 70s. So she'd be in her 40s. Yeah. By 2001.
Adult.
Yeah. I don't know how to do maths. That's not this kind of show. Okay, so Michelle's
if you're looking
daughter,
for a maths podcast, look elsewhere.
Yeah. So Michelle's eldest daughter was called Nikki. She told the police she had information about Kathy's disappearance and wanted to tell them. Oh, sorry. In my notes, it says her daughter was 26 at this time when she made the report.
Okay.
And
that would have spared us a lot of embarrassment. So when Kathy went missing, she was about 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because
so
we're
about
2001 now.
16-ish.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So she went to tell the police she was extremely afraid of Michelle, and she didn't want Michelle to find out that she'd reported this to police. So once Nikki started telling the story, it was obvious why she was so afraid. She told the police that Michelle had murdered Kathy. The police were shocked because Michelle was known to be a Samaritan type locally who worked with the elderly and took in people in need. But according to Nikki, her kind demeanor was just a sinister trap, which we already know, because behind closed doors, as soon as she had them in her house, she turned into a monster. Yes, apparently she turned pretty quick. As soon as they were dependent on her, she turned. So Nikki claimed that Kathy was a person who was most abused by Michelle. She'd been imprisoned and enslaved and forced to crawl around the house naked, as well as being beaten and starved. So one horrific story I came across was that Michelle would make the food look really nice on the outside, but underneath it'd be rotten with bugs in it. Yeah, she was
What
twisted.
the fuck? That is serious.
It's cruel.
I wonder how much of this was treatment that she received as a child.
Yeah, oh, completely. Because apparently her grandmother was, well, her mother, wasn't great. She abandoned her. And also apparently the grandmother was very abusive and torturous. So she comes from a long line of, torturous, dysfunctional people. So, yeah.
This is like another story of adults failing the children in their lives.
Oh, completely. Do you know what? Honestly, I really think if people have issues, fucking sort them out before you have kids and pass them on,
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's like heartbreaking when people
and
fuck
don't
their
turn
kids
a
up.
blind eye to your kids' problems either, because
Yeah.
they won't get better on their own. They'll get worse. I'm not saying everyone will go on to be a killer, but yeah, just nip that shit in the bud.
So Michelle would force Kathy to eat this, and because Kathy had been so starved, she gave in. And she lost like 100 pounds in the time that she was there. Yeah. So Michelle's daughters recounted that Michelle also used these tactics on them. Apparently, her daughters would also be beaten, and her nephew had food restricted, were locked up in closets, and made to use buckets as toilets.
Do we know why Kathy stayed? Because, I mean, obviously we understand why the kids did.
Well, I'm going to get into that, but it's all fear. It's all fear. She would make her kids stab Kathy with scissors as well. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they would have to take part, or they would be tortured themselves by Michelle.
Oh
so
my God.
Fear, So apparently David, her husband, was also a willing accomplice. He went along with Michelle's abuse.
Do you know what I'm getting? Rose and Fred West vibes.
Exactly, yeah. Like attracts like. So the question does arise whether he was also one of her victims and was also afraid, because she did make the kids torture Kathy. She did make David torture Kathy. Was he also afraid of her? That's going to come up in a bit. So according to the middle daughter, Sammy, the reason why my mom was able to control Dave was because while I love him, he's just a very weak man. He has no backbone. He could have got happily married and been an amazing husband to somebody, because he really would have been. But instead, he just got his life ruined too. So that's Michelle's daughter's take on it. So, yeah. So I don't know what conclusions we can draw.
I don't know enough yet. I don't know enough, but yeah.
Well, it gets a little worse with Dave too. So
I was just gonna say, from at this point, with the very little I know, he seems in the best place to have stopped this sooner.
Exactly. He's not a kid,
I mean, he was a vet. You said he's been in the military.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. So apparently, according to Nikki, the eldest daughter, Kathy had tried to escape early on and made it down a quarter of a mile down the road, but Michelle found her, and Kathy just stopped trying to escape and became completely hopeless. She was also physically very weak, lost 100 pounds, wasn't being fed properly, was being absolutely tortured and abused. I mean, you can imagine, like a lot of stories of captors, they just give up hope, and are afraid to, there's even stories of captors leaving the home, going off on shopping trips and still coming back. So Michelle also would psychologically abuse Kathy. Obviously we kind of expect that as well. Nikki didn't know how Kathy died, just that she mysteriously disappeared in 1991. And Nikki confirmed that Michelle faked the letters from Kathy and the story about the trucker boyfriend. That just never happened. Nikki said her mother told her that if she ever told the police, they would kill her and all the kids. So as the eldest daughter, she had this responsibility towards the others.
That is so awful.
So Michelle would also torture her daughters and lock them in dog kennels, and even once shoved one of her daughters' heads through a glass door. Yeah, it gets extreme. I know. It's not pleasant. The daughters were told that Shane had run away, and they didn't know the real story. But at age 21, Nikki finally managed to run away and spent 5 years in hiding, only to tell her story at age 26. 10 years after Kathy disappeared. So the police checked medical and school reports to verify the story and found no signs of abuse of Michelle's daughters. Because on the outside, they all seemed fine. But it's scary, isn't it? Because, like, you know, as a teacher, we're taught about safeguarding. Like, you have to, every year, you have to have attend safeguarding training. And some signs are obviously very clear. But what's frightening is that to the teachers, this wasn't clear because they appeared to be kids who were involved in extracurricular activities. And, you know, there is an assumption that kids who are doing well at school and doing extracurricular activities have parents who care about their development and stuff like that, you know?
And you said that the mom was like volunteering at the old people's home and stuff like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Not your typical profile of a family that is...
Yeah, well, another thing I can tell you from being a teacher is that
there's no typical profile.
No. And that's the frightening thing. And sometimes the parents are in positions of power job-wise as well. So you really don't know.
And she was clearly clever with it. Not that that's something to boast about, but she clearly knew how to get away with it for a fairly long time.
So police dropped the case again, even after Nikki went and told them all this, and Kathy's case went cold for a second time. So police negligence there, because I think if somebody says that their mother's doing all this, you should at least go back and investigate, you know? By 2003, it was more than a year since Nikki made her allegations against Michelle. And Nikki got scared again and went into hiding, refusing to cooperate. Didn't want to.
Yeah, because what comes of it? Nothing.
Yeah. So in 2001, Michelle took in 57-year-old Ron Woodworth, who was down on his luck after being devastated by a breakup from his long-term partner. He also lost his job and his home had been repossessed. Michelle had once looked after Ron's elderly mother in a care home, so he kind of trusted her. He moved in with the Knoteks in 2001. Ron also...
I just had a horrible thought. Did they investigate the care home?
I wondered that. I came across nothing about that. But I don't know if care homes can silence that sort of thing, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And the care homes she worked in were owned by her family.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So Ron also refused to speak to the police, avoiding them when they would come around to the house. The police couldn't do much more if Nikki or Ron wouldn't cooperate anymore. So after 2 years in hiding, Nikki came back 2003 to speak to the police, this time with her sister, Sammy, who's 24. When the police interviewed Sammy, she confirmed Nikki's story. Michelle was literally abusing people psychologically and physically. And both of them were scared for their 14-year-old sister, Tori, who was still living there. And she's David's daughter. Yeah. David and Michelle's daughter. So, according to Michelle's daughters, Ron had also gone missing. 57-year-old Ron.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Michelle's explanation of his disappearance. So we've got now 3 disappeared people. Shane.
And Ron disappeared after around the time that the daughter first came forth about what was going on. So in theory, his life could have been spared. I'm assuming he's dead.
Yeah. Right. Shane also, so we have Kathy, Shane, and Ron disappeared. Michelle's explanation of Ron's disappearance is that he'd met someone who moved to California, the same story as Kathy's. So apparently Michelle demanded that Ron cut ties with his family. This is the real story. Forced him to drink his own urine, ordered him to jump off the roof. And when he didn't die from that 2-story fall, it left him really badly injured. And as treatment, Michelle would pour bleach over his wounds. Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff of nightmares, you know, who even dreams of these kinds of torture, you know?
That is just horror movie level.
It is, yeah,
torture.
it is. I'm actually surprised she's not more well known, because honest to fucking God, this story is worse than Eileen Wuornos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in 2003, Ron succumbed to the torture and died. Ron hid Michelle's corpse in the freezer, and David eventually buried him.
I don't think that's true. I think Michelle might have hid Ron's corpse.
What'd I say?
Ron hid Michelle's corpse.
Oh, Michelle hid Ron's corpse in the freezer, and David eventually buried him in the garden. So the eldest two daughters, Sammy and Nikki, they went to rescue their younger sister, who appeared more than happy to go with them. Michelle was there at the time and denied the allegations. The police were there too. And she was apparently crying and being manipulative, and the police then called in David to interrogate him, and they confronted him with the stories that the daughters had told. He denied everything at first and said that Kathy had died after falling and slipping in the shower.
So he admitted that she was dead, but not that they killed her.
Yeah,
okay.
He did admit that he and Michelle attempted to cover up the death, being afraid that they would be accused of murder. The real story was that he found Kathy choke. Well, this is do we know if it's the real story? No, but this is
another story.
Yeah. Another version of events came out when they interrogated him, that he found Kathy choking on her own vomit, her eyes rolled back in her head. And so he flipped her on her side, started scooping the vomit out of her mouth with his fingers, but it was no use. And apparently after 5 minutes of CPR, Kathy was dead. I don't buy it either. It seems a little bit too kind.
I mean, they might have found her in that state, because if she was so weakened and being tortured and being forced to consume all kinds of disgusting things, I can't imagine that after torturing her, they're fishing vomit out of her mouth. I can't imagine they would even bother.
Yeah. So David later recalled, I know I should have called 911, but with everything that had been going on, I didn't want the cops there. I didn't want Michelle in trouble or the kids to go through that trauma. He didn't want the kids to go through that trauma, but he was happy with all the rest. So he said, I didn't want this to ruin their lives or our family. I just freaked out. I really did. Didn't know what to do. So when Michelle learned of Kathy's death, she convinced David and the kids that each of them would be incarcerated if they told outsiders. So at Michelle's command, David burned Kathy's corpse. Yeah. So David told police that they had burned the body and dumped her ashes in the ocean. And David was a surfer, so he would take buckets of ashes at a time to dispose of in the ocean. But what happened to Ron? So David admitted that Ron died too. David alleged that Ron killed himself by overdose. I mean, it's possible that he did because he just wanted to get out of the torture.
Probably.
Possible. We won't know. Yeah, we won't know.
But probably not.
However, they didn't burn Ron's body, and he replied that because there was a burn ban that summer. So they couldn't burn the body. So they had a predicament. He knew that if he started a fire, someone would report it to the police. So according to David, Ron's body was buried in the back garden. So because he admitted to illegally disposing of two bodies, the police immediately searched the five-acre property for human remains, because they had this little house with a lot of land around it.
Yeah.
Very secluded, very isolated, very private. We now know why they wanted that house. So the police then finally had enough evidence to arrest Michelle, who had been actively torturing and killing for years by this point. For years. She still maintained her innocence while being handcuffed, despite David's confessions and her daughter's allegations. So on the morning of August 9th, 2003, police swarmed Michelle's house to dig up the 5 acres of land with a search warrant, cadaver dogs, and heavy machinery. So, Tori, the youngest daughter, was placed in her sister Sammy's custody. David confessed to shooting Shane. Finally confessed to
teenager, the nephew.
Yeah, the nephew.
Michelle.
And burying Ron 5 months later. He was charged with second-degree murder for shooting Shane. For shooting Shane, and served 13 years in prison. The police found Ron's body buried in a shallow grave inside a sleeping bag wrapped in plastic refuse sacks. They found a small shed on the property where David then admitted he killed Shane under Michelle's instruction. So Shane was apparently threatening to go to the police to tell them about how Kathy was being tortured.
Poor guy. I mean, what a legend. He was trying to save her.
And that kid had been through a lot too. His dad was in and out of prison. Don't know what happened to the mother. Michelle used to make Shane go stand outside naked in the cold while she dumped water on him. So that poor boy had a lot of abuse too. Michelle told David for the sake of the family, he had to kill Shane. David was apparently an easily led person, and so he took a rifle, snuck into the shed where Shane was working, and shot him. David then burned Shane's body in the garden. So over the next few weeks, the police continued to search for the property for Kathy and Shane. Searching inside the house, however, the police found loads of evidence of torture. They even found, and you know what? Why the fuck didn't they find this earlier? You know, when Nikki and Sammy went to the police to report abuse, why didn't the police go and search the house? When Kathy went missing, why didn't they search for clues? Like, there's a lot of opportunity.
At this point, there's still a child living there, the youngest
like,
one.
if you have any fucking doubt, go search. Don't give a shit about offending people. Just go search, you know? So anyway, they found loads of evidence of torture. They even found photographic evidence of the claim that Kathy was forced to crawl across the floor naked. They found photos showing Kathy's decline, how she became emaciated and unwell over time. So, you know, the other thing is, when they went to go
Kathy.
No, but the other thing is also, back in this time, you had to go and take your camera rolls to be developed.
Yeah, did they have a dark room?
Maybe, because seriously, whoever the fuck developed those pictures and didn't report that.
I mean, I know it's on a machine, so you might not actually, depending on how vigilant or how quality control careful they are, it is possible to produce films and to develop films and not look at it in, you know. But I mean, that's a risk, you know, because they'll do spot checks to make sure they're printing fine and blah, blah, blah. So it seems highly unlikely that they would.
Kathy finally ends up in court for torturing 3 people to death. She was defiant till the end and showed no remorse whatsoever. However,
did she admit it?
Let me finish.
Okay.
However, since Shane and Kathy's body were nowhere to be found, it was very hard to convict her without the bodies, despite all the fucking evidence. So Michelle's oldest daughter provided important evidence, but David solidified the case by making his confessions. He was apparently very humble and honest about his part in it all. Who knows whether he was fucking sorry or whether this was just a show in court. Michelle, however, did not plead guilty, but the judge gave her the maximum that the law would allow, which was 22 years, which just seems
22 years.
I know. You know, the American justice system is fucking flawed. Apparently, Kim Kardashian actually has a really good podcast about it. Haven't listened, but apparently it's good. Yeah, I don't know. Michelle is still in prison now, but she's set to be released in just over 3 years. 2026. Yeah, she'll be 72.
Sorry, was she convicted for all 3 or just one that they found the body for?
I don't know. Good question. Cut that out.
No, I'm gonna Google it. Michelle was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Kathy and Ron. And David was charged with first-degree murder of Shane.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he did kill him.
He confessed, yeah.
So Nikki and Sammy, the 2 eldest daughters, are now in their mid-40s, living in Seattle. Tori, however, the youngest one, needed a change of scene and moved to Colorado. In 2018, David was paroled, so he's out, and reached out to his daughters to ask for forgiveness. Sammy and Tori.
Sorry, I tortured you and let you be tortured and killed people in front of you?
Well, listen to what they say. They've gone on record saying that despite everything, they do forgive him, whom they consider to be just another one of Michelle's victims. However, Nikki did not accept her father's apology. For her, the abuse was unforgettable and unforgivable. So that's where we are now. So the kids are left without contact with parents. At one point, both parents were in jail. Michelle's still in jail, not for much longer. It's insane because it's unlikely that she would have undergone a massive change in that time and come out, you know, a clean living good Samaritan. But what I always find interesting, and I always want to delve into the background, what makes somebody bad, what makes somebody like commit all these crimes, you know? Because these are not just crimes. There should be another fucking word for it, because it's like there's crimes that don't hurt people, and then there's crimes that intentionally are there to hurt people. And some of the common factors are a bad upbringing, as we talked about, a negligent, upbringing, often with abuse themselves. Another common factor is that they're master manipulators, like with Ted Bundy. A lot of the serial killers are described as charming, and no one seems to have a single inkling of what's going on because their victims are afraid, So,
and that's, interesting, because you remember when this did come up before, I think it was the Levi Belfield episode, when I had just gone to the talk by Jennifer Rees, and she starts, she in her talk, she talks about the differences between male and female serial killers. And basically, females tend to use like more distant methods. And by that, I mean poisoning or guns, because it's less dependent on your physical stature, on the assumption that women tend to be smaller physically than men on average. Whereas serial killers will more often be more hands-on, strangulation, stabbing, so forth. So this is a weird one because it bucks that trend, because she's using very hands-on means of torture. I don't know whether the end goal was to kill them. It obviously was with Shane, where she told him to kill him. But I don't know with the torturing of the other two, whether that was the plan or whether they died as a result of the torture. But really, like, she obviously didn't care if they lived or died, but was she...
I think for her, it was the torture.
Yeah.
It was the torture more than it was the killing. It was a torture because that's what she experienced. And, even when she was a kid, apparently, she got kicked out of Catholic boarding school. She got kicked out of several schools by this point, but her dad managed to get a Catholic boarding school to take her in. And she used to put glass in the bottom of the kids' shoes, as a kid. So I think it was the pleasure of torture.
And all of that, again, not a psychologist, it seems like it's an attempt to get back the control she never had when she was being tortured, when she was being abused.
emulating that behavior. I think people often become like their parents unless you actively don't want to be that, and it's emulating what she experienced.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it is. But it's interesting at what point the abused becomes the abuser. With her, it started very young,
Yeah, and at what point can you stop? What point do you have to start blaming the victim for becoming the abuser?
I have another fact.
Go on.
So when she was a teenager, one day she just didn't come home from school, and her stepmother, Lara, who did try to help her out and did look after her for quite a number of years, knew something was up, knew something was wrong. And it ended up that she was taken in by the police because she had accused her dad of rape. Yeah. So Lara freaked out, went to search her room, and found a True Confessions magazine where the headline was, "My father raped me when I was 15. So as it happens, the dad was completely in disbelief. And I mean, it's easier to assume in this case that that sort of abuse could have happened to her, but he did instruct the doctors to do a medical examination, which found that it wasn't true.
What, she was still a virgin, I hope.
Yeah. No bruising, no wounds either. So that turned out to not be the case. And it was after that her dad and her stepmother did put her in for lots of counseling and therapy. So they did try, but I don't know, there's another theory that you're hardwired by the time you're 3. So she was dropped off on his doorstep when she was 6, So it's a lot of years.
And the amount that she would have seen by then that no person should see, let alone a child. Bless her.
So
at that point, bless 6-year-old her.
So so that's another bit of the story. So she did have counseling. She did have counseling, but by that point she's a teenager. and a lot of damage had already been done. But yeah, what do you make of this story?
I feel like I need to go and process it in the dark. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it really really brings to the forefront, like, at what point the abused becomes the abuser, and at what point can you stop making excuses for them because they were abused, and at what point does it become their responsibility? Because, to quote Amanda from one of my favorite podcasts, Wine and Crime, she always says, your mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Good
and
point.
Especially as you get to adult age. But the thing is, if you get to adult age and you don't realize there's anything different, or there's anything wrong with the way you are, because you don't know any different, then it's a bit tricky to be like, well, you're an adult now, why haven't you fixed yourself?
Yeah.
So it's really, really tricky, isn't it? I have no idea what she would have been classified as having these days.
I know. I wondered that.
I mean, she's definitely sadistic. She's definitely getting her jollies off torturing people.
Yeah. Is there something more other than just...
I think it's just a control and a power thing, because she would have felt so powerless most of her life.
Yeah.
That, you know, and also to kind of justify the actions, the treatment she received. If she's doing too, it kind of validates the treatment she got. I don't know. Again,
I know. I don't think we'll understand quite what the fuck makes these people tick. But yeah, I mean, this one is I would say probably the worst topic I'm going to cover.
It was pretty bad. I mean,
because it involves kids and torturing kids. Yeah.
It's not funny, and the other day you said you didn't want to cover, who was it? Israel Keys, because of the sewing the eyelids open.
Yeah.
And then you come back with child killing.
I know, because you know what? There was something about his daughter, and I think that put me off looking into it more. And I didn't know what he did to his daughter, and I can't really normally cope with anything to do with bad things happening to kids. But this one, kind of didn't know what I was getting into when I started researching it. I was just looking for female killers. And
so what you said you said you found her when you were researching something else. What were you researching, or are you just looking for females?
Yeah, I was just looking for female killers, and I didn't want to cover Eileen because she's been covered ad nauseum, and this one is by far fucking worse. And I wanted to know what I wanted to know. Yeah, I wanted to understand women killers, especially ones who are mothers. Where's the maternal instinct? Where's the nurturing instinct? Do they not have it? We know that some parents don't, but this goes far beyond that. A lot of the
women serial killers, it's the motive, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them, they're Black widows, or it's for financial gain.
What's a Black widow?
Like someone who kills their husband. So you've got a few of the American female serial killers are those. They've suspiciously had multiple husbands die on them.
Yeah.
But much of the time, I'll say, I don't want to make sweeping generalizations, but I will anyways. The reason for killing multiple people is financial gain or stability or security. Whereas this is something different. There's no practical, in quotation marks, reason for doing this. If anything, it's impractical, because like she's got someone willing to help her and raise her kids, and she fucking debilitates her by torturing her and poisoning her and all kinds of stuff. So for this is just the enjoyment of the actual torture, it seems like.
Yeah.
Which is just more twisted.
So did I do good?
You did good. I'm proud of you.
So yeah, I mean, I've still got some other topics that are pretty unpleasant. There's one particular murder one, which is gruesome and evil. They all are. But this one, I like a bit of variety. And I wanted to throw one in where it was, oh God, the mother aspect. You know?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I don't know whether it's some sort of reverse sexism where we assume that women are going to be more nurturing and so forth. But you do, especially with their own children.
Yes.
To be honest, it's hard to understand any parent treating their kids, neglecting their kids in any way. But this is next level. This is torture, not just like neglect, where you sort of, the absence of doing things you should do. This is going further and doing stuff you definitely should not be doing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that's the story of Michelle Knotek. So what you been watching this week? let's end on a light and breezy note.
Yeah. I have been watching. Okay, so one of my other favorite podcasts is True Crime and Cocktails with Lauren Ash and Kirsty Oxborough.
Mm-hmm.
And Lauren Ash is Dina in Superstore.
Oh yeah.
And have you seen Superstore? Have you watched it?
No idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well, it's on Netflix. It's really, really good, like lighthearted, easy watching comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And Dina has always been my favorite
Mm-hmm.
because she's kind of like dark, she's one of us basically.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started listening to True Crime and Cocktails, I came across it because either it was recommended in a podcast or it was suggested to me on Spotify because of what other stuff I listened to. And I was like, I fucking recognize this voice. I recognize this voice. And it was only after a few episodes that she mentioned Superstore. And I was like, fucking hell, it's Dina. So as a result of binging True Crime and Cocktails and having caught up now with all their episodes, so I'm having to wait for the weekly drops.
So annoying when that happens.
I know. But then by that time, I've got a build up now of wine and crime that I'm catching up on. So it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's a first world wine. I get that. But yeah, because I was missing my Lauren Ash hit, I've started watching Superstore again.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Try it. You would like it.
I don't know, Dee. Whenever people tell me to watch a comedy, and sometimes you're guilty of this, tell me to go watch a comedy, I'm waiting to fucking laugh, and I'm waiting the whole episode to fucking laugh, and I don't laugh. You know that I find it hard. There's like three people in the world that make me laugh. You're one. There's not much that makes me laugh, and I wish more did, but it doesn't. It's a specific brand of humor that I like, and honestly, it's just, like I said, super bad. The Hangover. Who else?
Okay, well then don't watch it because I don't think
is it not
like
funny?
That.
Well, I'm not gonna fucking laugh. Why do you recommend it then?
No, because
I think The Office is funny, but I don't laugh. It's just that uncomfortable humor that I love.
Well, there's a lot of that. I think it's funny. It's like good background TV as well.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what I don't find fucking funny. Should I tell you what I don't find fucking funny?
Yes, you're gonna, because you're angry.
When you told me to watch The In-Betweeners. Oh, Summer Heights High is funny. That I laughed. But when you...
I don't know how you don't find The In-Betweeners funny.
Deanna,
we need to do a poll. Can we do a poll? Can we do a poll?
I'll do a poll.
Settle this. Who's right?
Because... Do you know what? Summer Heights High, that's fucking funny. And as an ex-teacher, it's really fucking funny. I watched In-Betweeners. I'm like, there's nothing funny about this.
Can you try
that's
it
where
again?
I lost. Well, I don't know. I'll try, but it made
try it again now that you haven't been a teacher for a while. Because I
tell you why it makes me angry.
Why?
I started to view your recommendations differently after that.
I know, but I think.
And every time you told me something was funny, I always think of that moment. No.
Can you tell me how many episodes you watched?
Oh, not even one.
Oh, okay. Well,
how am I gonna watch more than one? Again, if it's good, it grabs you. If it's good, it fucking grabs you.
I know, but can you at least watch 2 episodes?
Probably not. You know what? I have like an hour of day of TV watching if I'm lucky. You're
missing out. Right, fine. Then you have to do a poll.
Okay, I'm gonna do a poll.
You have to.
Do you think it's just English humor?
See, it's so dark and twisted that I think you'll fucking love it.
Like whenever when you used to go on about bus wanker or something, I was like, why the fuck is that funny, bus wanker?
Funny. Because it was funny.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna find the best bits.
Okay.
Because you know that my attention span is limited.
Okay, like, fine.
Something has about 3 seconds to grab me, otherwise I'm out. I'm checked out. My phone is out. I'm scrolling.
I know,
that's why I can't watch it. That's why you don't want to watch a film with me, because
no, I don't ever want to watch films.
Nobody wants to watch.
Sometimes you tell me, "Oh, I watched this," and I'm like, "How the fuck did you manage to follow that storyline without me there?" Because
I was sitting next to Jim,
right?
Told me the story.
Or you're always like, "What's happening? What's happening?"
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, what have you been watching?
I was going to say, why do you ask me what I'm watching? So some things I'm watching I can't tell you because they're spoilers, because they're my research for future episodes.
Okay, so it's literally the same conversation we had last week. So
yeah. The rest of it's going to be the same as last week. I've been watching Real Housewives. Food I checked in with the Real Housewives of Potomac. Ooh.
Have you started watching Wednesday? Because that's so good.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, didn't we?
No, I had
Oh,
started
did I
watching
not
it.
start? That's true. I didn't start watching it last. Okay, so yeah, I started watching it. Do you know what? I love anything that Tim Burton does. Everything. The kid stuff, the adult stuff. I mean, ever since Edward Scissorhands, it freaked the fuck out of me as a kid, but in like a way that you love it.
Yeah,
Like
obsessed. Uh-huh.
And so yeah, I loved it, and I love the actress. I think she's so cute.
She's so good.
Do you know what? She's so cute. She's so good. But I'll tell you what, though. We are of the 90s Family Addams era. I never watched the one in the 60s. So Christina Ricci was perfection in that role, where I believed she was Wednesday Addams. Do you know what I mean? Where I didn't feel like she was acting. I really felt she had this acerbic, dark wit that was just so believable. Like, didn't feel like acting it. She fucking was Wednesday Addams. I do feel like this actress is acting, but she is obviously because she's an actress. Whereas
what you're saying is that it's not a documentary?
I know what I'm trying to say, but Wednesday Addams of the 90s was...
You can't beat her. You can't
very fucking convincing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very fucking convincing. And this new one, I think her name is Jenny Ortega. I liked her a lot in You. And I think she's a great actress. It's always that thing of when you compare something to the older version of it or a different version that you're more used to. But I love this. It's completely different. It's completely different.
To her to even taking it on.
Yeah.
Because of how iconic Christina Ricci is as Wednesday.
What I found
how cool is it that she's in it too? I love that.
Yeah. But what I found interesting is that in this series, Wednesday doesn't get along with her parents. And I find that out of character. Because actually they were always a very loving family. So I find that weird, a little weird and hard to understand because they were always she wasn't that before. Old school Wednesday.
I was struggling with that too because they got along so much more, and I'm like, oh, is this because she's a little bit older? It's like kind of bratty teenage years that. Yeah, this is a bit strange. But I can't wait to finish it. I'm still early days in the season.
Yeah, I'm only on episode 2. I do like it a lot. Like, I fucking love it, actually. Like, forgetting the comparisons with old school Addams Family, it is good. I mean, anything that Tim Burton does is good.
Do you know where it's filmed?
Where?
Romania.
I wondered. Do you know what? I wondered because that town is so cute. I thought, where the fuck is it? I was wondering.
Oh, no, the town? The town is a fake set because I googled it. You're gonna laugh because I thought it might be Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. It looks very similar.
It looks a lot like a lot of small American towns. I even looked like, remember Indianapolis?
No, we've never been. What do you mean?
We have been. Annapolis. Where the fuck? Where have we never been to Indianapolis? Annapolis.
Yeah. No, it does.
You know how they all look a little bit like Mr. Village.
Yes,
they look like a fake town. All these little
they really do. Towns. Well, that one is a fake town, but the school, which is so cool, isn't it? Like proper Gothic mansion.
Is that real?
Yeah, it's a real castle, and there's a bunch of other places that are real places in Romania. And the reason why I was super excited about that, for those that don't know, I went to Romania in September, and it was awesome. I loved it so much. I can't wait to go back.
Do you know what I do love about American architecture is their Gothic architecture?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, back to Romania.
Oh, okay.
Did you know the latest census that the fastest growing language in London, I don't know if it's London or the UK, but is Romanian?
Oh, wow. It did look amazing from the pictures. It really did.
So check out Wednesday. Check out, oh my God, honestly, I had the best holiday in Bucharest. We had a day trip into Transylvania.
And the food looked good.
The food was amazing. It's so cheap compared to London, like so crazy cheap. The people were so friendly, so lovely, so warm. Like Romania is my new destination hotspot. I'm all for it. And the
spa, you went to an amazing spa.
Oh, the thermal spa by the airport near just outside Bucharest was amazing. We were there for 4 days and we went there for 2 days.
Yeah, it looks good. It all just looks amazing. And fucking Transylvania.
So cool.
Did not disappoint. I mean, I didn't go, but I posted the pictures on socials.
Yes.
had the pleasure of doing that.
So when I saw that Wednesday was filmed in Romania, I got extra excited because it is such a cool place. So I am pro Romania, everyone.
Good. I want to go.
So on that note, let's wrap up. I want to tell our dear new editor, Paul. Yeah, that's right. We got an editor, and this is Rhonda's first.
Fucking hell. Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah. So
oh my God. Bring him on the show. Good man. Oh my God. Can I just say?
Oh, I haven't even told you the best bit.
He's doing
tell me. for free.
Oh my God, I love this guy. Oh my God.
I mean,
for those who don't know, because Paul is Deanna's partner, her fiance.
He's my fiance.
Yesterday, I called Dee after spending 3.5 hours editing half an hour of audio of us, and I just said, I fucking hate myself. I'm so annoying. It took 3.5 fucking hours to edit 30 minutes of audio. Can we get Paul to do? I was thinking, which one of our partners we gonna get to do it? And I thought Paul is more pleasant, and I won't have to hear the moaning.
We'll hear the moaning. I'll hear the moaning, but that's fine as long. We love every part of making this podcast.
I'm happy to compensate Paul for this job.
No, he gets compensated enough. Don't you worry.
Because honestly,
and we don't even mind the audio editing as a task. It's not like it's unpleasant.
It's enjoyable. It's lengthy. It
just takes so long because we talk so much. So I just want to say to our dear podcast editor, Paul, who
we now have a team.
Yeah, we have a podcast.
The social club is growing.
We have our manager, who is our mom.
Yep.
We have it.
I
was going to say we have our lister, our dad, but that's not true. He never listens. And we have our podcast editor.
All right. God, the relief.
Nice, huh?
Fucking hell. Oh my God. Because
we'll feature Paul on our social media. And he's a sick-twisted bastard. I always tell him he needs his own podcast because
good man, because he can talk.
He can talk. And he comes out with some weird shit that I know some weirdos out there will want to also listen to.
Oh, do you know what? Honestly, because let me tell you, this podcasting stuff, it's laborious, huh? We do it because we love our listeners. And we want to give you what you want. But
don't start a podcast if you're really short on time, unless you have lots of money to pay people like us to do the stuff for you.
Yeah.
All right. One thing I will say, I never want to get a researcher because that's my favorite part.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Oh my God. Yeah. Why would you outsource that? The research and the delivery. And for me, the socials, because most of my work is the socials. Okay, let's end this. Let me go pee so we can record the next one.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this horrible story about Michelle Knotek, who I had no idea about, never even heard that name.
Do you know what I want to know? Who of our listeners knew about her before?
We'll do a poll then.
DM us. Send us messages for fuck's sake.
Yeah, get in touch. We love hearing from you guys. We love it.
Love
All right. Well, see you next week then.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Safier sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!